Hey everyone, and welcome to This Explainer. Okay, today we are doing something incredibly cool. We're setting out on a massive journey to decode literally every major networking concept, and we are not leaving anything behind. We're going to build the internet from the absolute ground up, layer by layer. I mean, we'll start with one lonely little cable and scale all the way up to global cloud infrastructure. So let's totally demystify how our connected world actually works. So let's dive right into this. How in the world do we get from one single, totally disconnected cable to a massive global internet? I mean, it seems like an impossible leap, right? But here's the secret. Networking is really just a cumulative series of problems and really elegant solutions. Basically, every time we hit a roadblock, a brand new technology is invented just to get us past it. And we are going to trace that exact step-by-step journey today.
To help us navigate this, we're drawing from the brilliant mind of Diego, a senior DevOps engineer based out in Paris. He has this great approach, noting, "I like breaking down tech concepts into simple and visual explanations," and that is exactly what we're aiming for here. We're taking his expert, structured breakdown and turning it into something really visual and intuitive.
All right, step one. You've got a single computer sitting there. To get it talking to anything else, we need a medium to actually carry the data. And we basically have two choices here. You've got Ethernet, which uses physical cables, copper or fiber optic lines to transmit data, or you've got Wi-Fi, which does the exact same thing but sends that data completely invisibly through the airwaves. Same core concept, just a different medium. For our build today, let's just imagine we're plugging in a physical cable.
Okay, boom. We plug that cable into a second computer. They are physically connected. But wait. Instantly, we hit our first major roadblock. Neither device actually knows who is on the other side of that wire. Enter our very first solution, the MAC address. You can kind of think of this like a birth certificate. It's a totally unique hardware identifier that every single network device is literally born with. So, when two devices are directly connected, they use these MAC addresses to officially recognize each other.
Now, connecting two devices? That's easy. But what if you need to connect, say, 50 computers? You definitely can't just run a tangled mess of cables between every single pair, right? That is exactly where the switch comes in. A switch is basically a smart central hub that connects multiple local devices together. It's really clever too. It reads the destination MAC address on every piece of incoming data and then actively routes it only to that correct specific device. But there is a catch. Switches only work locally. They're completely confined to their own little bubble.
So how do we break out of that local bubble and actually reach a device on a completely different network? Well, we need a totally different kind of identifier for that. Enter the IP address. Now, unlike a MAC address, which is hardwired right into the physical hardware, an IP address is logical. It gets assigned to your device, and it actually changes depending on where you're currently connected. This is the absolutely crucial puzzle piece that lets us locate your device across entirely different networks.
Right, so how does your actual phone or laptop get this IP address? Well, you've got two options. Option one is a static IP, which means you literally go into your network settings and manually type the numbers in yourself. Imagine doing that for your phone, your laptop, your smart TV. Yeah, it's a total nightmare. Which brings us to DHCP, or Dynamic Host Configuration Protocol. This is basically pure magic. The second you join a network, DHCP assigns you an IP completely automatically, no typing required.
Okay, awesome. Our device now has its IP address, and it can talk to thousands of devices across different networks. But think about this. Networks can be absolutely massive, or they can be tiny. How does your device actually know the boundaries of its current home? Well, that is the job of a subnet. It quite literally defines the exact size of your local network. Basically, it just tells your device exactly how big or small its immediate neighborhood is.
So we know our neighborhood. Now our device is ready to really explore the outside world. But to do that, it needs an exit door. And that door, that's your router. A router connects different networks together by looking at the destination IP and deciding where to send the data. But what if there are multiple routers? Your device needs a primary exit, and that's your default gateway. It's essentially your device saying, look, I have absolutely no idea where this goes, so I'm just going to let the gateway figure it out. But how do these routers actually figure all this out? Well, they use things called routing protocols to literally map the world. For very small networks, you'd use static routing, where you manually program the path. But for a large company with dozens of internal networks, you'd step up to OSPF, which maps those paths automatically. But what about the actual internet itself, with millions of interacting networks? For that absolute beast, we use BGP, the Border Gateway Protocol. In a very real sense, BGP is the protocol that literally makes the internet exist by connecting these massive companies together.
All right, let's just hit pause on our build for a second. We've got local connections, we've got routers, we've got these massive global protocols, but does it actually work? Let's test the path with a ping. A ping sends a tiny little packet of data to a destination and just waits for a response. If it gets a reply, boom, the path is alive. Now, ping operates using something called ICMP, which is a dedicated protocol specifically designed for network troubleshooting. So if the ping succeeds, our data is officially ready to travel.
Okay, the path is crystal clear. Now we gotta decide how we actually want to send our data across it. And it basically comes down to two heavyweights, TCP and UDP. TCP creates a dedicated connection and waits for confirmation that every single packet arrived perfectly. It's incredibly reliable, but kind of slow, making it absolutely ideal for file transfers. On the flip side, we have UDP. UDP is blindingly fast and doesn't wait for any confirmations. If a packet gets lost, oh well, it's gone. We use UDP for things where speed is everything, like live video calls and gaming.
But hang on, think about this for a second. Your computer can do a totally flawless file transfer using TCP and hold a super high-speed video call using UDP, literally at the exact same time. So, how does the arriving data know which app to go to? The answer is ports. A port is simply a specific number that tells your device exactly which application gets the data. Your IP address gets the data to the specific computer, but the port targets the right application inside, like port 443, for example, which is reserved for web traffic.
So let's say we send out our web traffic on port 443, but suddenly, bam, it gets completely blocked. Why? Well, say hello to the firewall. A firewall is basically the ultimate security bouncer of the network. It strictly controls exactly what is allowed in and out. It can block specific ports, whole IP addresses, or even entire types of traffic. If you want to get your data through, a rule has to be explicitly added to allow that specific connection to pass.
Okay, phew, we made it through the firewall. But wait, we've got another problem. Someone is lurking on the line. A hacker sitting right between us and the server can easily read all our data, passwords, messages, the whole shebang, because it's being sent in completely readable plain text. And that is where TLS, or Transport Layer Security, steps in to save the day. TLS completely encrypts the connection between the two devices. It takes that plain text and scrambles it into a totally secure mess, ensuring no one in the middle can intercept or read it.
Now, TLS is absolutely amazing, right? But here's the catch. It only protects one single connection at a time, like just your web browser talking to a server. What if you want to protect literally everything leaving your device, or even your whole local network? That is exactly where a VPN, or virtual private network, comes in. A VPN creates this massive, highly encrypted tunnel. Every single application, every connection you send through that tunnel is completely protected from outside eyes. All right, at this point, we've built a highly secure, globally routing network. It's incredible. But we've run into a human problem. We don't type a random string of IP numbers into a browser, right? We type things like google.com. Enter DNS, the domain name system. You can think of DNS as the internet's ultimate translator. It takes those easy, human-readable domain names and instantly translates them right back into the complex IP addresses that the machines actually need to talk to each other.
Let's bring all of these pieces together right now and just walk through the exact anatomy of a web request. Step 1, you type a name and DNS finds the IP address for you. Step 2, we use HTTP to basically say, hey, give me this web page. Step 3, obviously we don't want hackers reading it, so we wrap that HTTP request in TLS encryption. When you combine HTTP with TLS, you get HTTPS, which is the secure standard that powers the entire modern web. Boom! The web request works perfectly. But, now millions of other devices decide they want to access that exact same server at the exact same time. One single server would get completely crushed under that weight. So, here is our final scaling solution, the load balancer. A load balancer sits directly in front of an entire farm of servers. It acts almost like a really smart traffic cop, instantly distributing all those incoming HTTPS requests across multiple different machines just to prevent a total overload.
So let's zoom out for a second. We literally started today with one single physical cable, and we built our way all the way up to securely balancing millions of requests across global internet infrastructure. Diego notes a really great rule for learning this stuff. Always ask yourself, what problem does this actually solve? Every single concept we covered today, switches, IPs, routers, BGP, TLS, they all exist to solve one specific, massive scaling problem. Which leaves us with a pretty wild final thought. If every invisible click you make relies on all of these complex layers firing perfectly in sequence, what happens to our world when just one of those tiny links breaks? Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer.